there's absolutely no requirement that the Senate take the House bill uh, as anything definitive at all. It has passed the chamber with all Republican votes, and they have a tiny majority. But the Senate will do this as they wish. And I think what ends up happening here is they end up softening some of the harder edges. So I think a lot of the debates about the harder edges
Right.
around things like Medicaid and phase outs for clean energy subsidies, things like that. Um, Softened. Secondly, I do think you get a little bit of a nod to the rising bond vigilanteism by some additional cuts to make sure that there's a little bit more deficit reduction, and part of that, I think, for your audience too, means that you've seen the high watermark of SALT because. What that means is because they needed SALT to get votes in the House. They don't need SALT to get votes in the Senate.
Right.
So SALT's back in the firing line.
The president seems to have a great affinity to the gentleman from Louisiana, much more of a distant affinity to the gentleman from the Dakotas. What's the power that Senator Thune has in this debate?
Well, he's the chief cat herder, frankly. This is a unique process, again, for your audience, because this reconciliation process is unique because it's pretty much the only legislation where you need only bare majorities of the House and the Senate in order to pass something. So you don't need the usual 60 vote roundup that
Right.
provides a modicum of bipartisanship. What you need is what you need is 53 Republican senators, and that's pretty much it. So he's the chief cat herder here. But the Senate's not like the House. The House is a very majoritarian institution. Think of the Senate in this case as 53 CEOs, all of whom's desires and whims have to be
So it's like,
accommodated.
Paul, it's like a 10 at the Masters.
Right.
That's, I guess, what's like. Across the nation, we say good morning to you. We are thrilled at this historic moment with the House passage of the bill David Gura understands and I don't, that we have Terry Haines with us with Pangaea Policy, a special edition, certainly a special moment for Bloomberg surveillance. Sweeney and I were like, we have no clue what we're talking about. Bring in an adult, David Gura with Terry Haines.
Terry, it's great to talk to you as always, and I'd love to kind of linger on the deadline for all of this if we could, so we have a House Speaker who managed to get this through by the deadline that he imposed. Looming large here, of course, is that X date, the need by which the lawmakers have to raise the debt ceiling before the warning that we've gotten from the Treasury Secretary. How much of a forcing mechanism is that going to be? How do you see this playing out over the course of the summer?
I'm a big fan, even in my personal life, of the adage that work expands to fill the time allotted. Certainly that's how the Congress operates. So,
Bloomberg
uh,
doesn't
so what
work
you
that
get
way.
is, so what you get is a situation where whatever the X date is kind of the ultimate backstop. But I'd urge folks to look at this in two ways. The X date is the ultimate backstop, whatever it is, August, September, maybe even late July. But the other backstop, I think, and the more political backstop is July the 4th. The reason why I say that is that uh, you've seen out of the House urgency to try to get this done and momentum and building momentum to try to get this done. The president will certainly want to push on the Senate to keep that momentum building and keep a fire lit under them. Number one. Number two, how the White House sees this, which is not irrelevant. It's not dispositive, but it's not irrelevant, is that July 4th is kind of a great X date because what you're going to have on July 4th is three vectors. Potentially the tax bill passing, but also for markets, the announcement of a lot of trade deals. Hopefully that happens before then, but you'll see a lot of trade deals and a lot of economic stimulus coming out of those trade deals. And at the same time, the report on reciprocal tariffs will come through. So you've got all these things that they hope combine to provide more of a direction for the economy, an answer for rising bond vigilanteism, and the idea that what you're going to see is an economic boost out of all this.